Tonight on the Salty Podcast, my guest is Hugo Ortega, a Superyacht 500-ton captain, a mentor, and the new Bosun on Below Deck Season 12. He's also the founder of Superyacht Sunday School, a platform that helps people gain the skills they need to break into the yacht industry. And because this is a sailing channel, we will tie all of this together and discuss how these skills can strengthen your own sailing journey, help chart your own course, whether that's entering the yachting business, sailing around the world, or starting your own charter business. And of course, we'll be talking about the difference between the reality show and real life aboard a luxury yacht. But before we get underway, if you are enjoying content on this channel, please like, subscribe, and share. It really helps grow the channel. I'm your host, Captain Tinsley of Sailing Vessels Salty Abandoned and Island Packet 320, and this is the Salty Podcast, episode 71. Please help me welcome Hugo Ortega.
Thank you,
Hello.
Captain Tinsley. Thank you for such a great introduction.
Yes. Well, I'm excited to have you here. I appreciate you reaching out. This is awesome.
Yeah,
And,
excited to be here.
We're live on 4 platforms right now: Facebook, YouTube, X, and Instagram. And if I could go live on TikTok, they're just kind of funny about the rules. So, but we'll be posting your clips to that. So, okay, we're going to talk about, we're going to go in a few different directions here. First, I'd like to start off with a few background questions. Your story starts with an engineering degree, and you had a solid career path, right? What made you realize success didn't equal happiness? Go ahead.
Well, I went to college, and I think maybe like a lot of your listeners, it was, especially coming from the U.S., at the time it was just a focus that everyone had, right? If you want to be successful, go to college. It's going to open up so many doors. And it did. It's probably not the doors that I wanted to go through. So I got into this engineering job. I was 4 years in. After my degree, I already knew I wasn't really liking it. Started working. Then I found out I really wasn't liking it. And, you know, I'm just thankful that at the 2-year mark, I just realized, I was like, man, this isn't for me. I don't like the 9 to 5. I don't like being in the office. I don't like being in the factory. I don't like engineering. I like to problem solve, but I don't like engineering. And, you know, I'm sure we're going to get into it, but I went on this big travel adventure, and that's what got me ultimately onto this other path. So it was just recognizing that, hey, if I don't like where I'm at, let's just go find somewhere else.
Well, I bet that makes you where you can fix things on a boat.
Yeah. The problem solving and what I got from engineering is great because I'm one of the few captains I feel like that can communicate with the chief engineer, and I understand what he's saying, and he can do things that I don't do, but I understand why he's doing it. So it leads for a really good, healthy relationship.
Perfect. That is perfect. Because I am not a mechanic, and I wish I had those skills. I just get out the credit card and call someone to come fix my boat.
Right.
You said depression nearly consumed you. How did travel and that first encounter with a yachty become the spark that changed everything?
Yeah. Sorry, it was breaking up. I think you were asking me about that first instance. Yeah.
Well, when you met the yachty, I think you had some depression, and then you encountered a yachty, and something sparked interest in you, right?
Exactly. So when I was working, I got pretty low when I was working in that job, and thankfully a company ended up buying us out. And well, I say thankfully, but we all got laid off. But that was really the spark and the kind of what snapped me out of my funk, because I was kind of,
it was a blessing, right?
Yeah, it was a blessing in disguise. And after I got over the initial shock, I knew I'd always wanted to travel the world. And you know better than I, when you're just working a 9 to 5, like you don't have a lot of vacation time. That's why we ended up getting into boating and getting off the grid, because you need more time to enjoy and to travel. So when I went around, I started backpacking. I went through Eastern Europe, and then I ended up in Southeast Asia. And I was inside one of my hostels in Thailand, and that's when I met the first yachty. He was a deckhand, and when he started telling me about his life, and he started showing me photos on his phone of being in the Bahamas and riding jet skis in the Mediterranean and crystal blue waters, and I was really dumbfounded because I didn't even know that job existed. And at the time, I don't even think the show, which we're going to go into later as well, Below Deck, wasn't that popular or wasn't around. And when he showed me that other world, I really couldn't look back. I was like, well, I already love traveling. I might as well try traveling and making money, because it's way more than what I'm doing right now.
Wow, that's awesome. Because yeah, I used to have a job that was more, it was in the hospitality industry, which I think a lot of yachties come from that, right? Don't some come from this from the hospitality industry, the hotel industry? I thought
Right, exactly. Yeah. You'd be surprised. I think most people that get into the industry, especially on the stewardess or steward side, are really just hospitality workers, whether it's, fine restaurants, whether it's working in hotels. I mean, at the end of the day, we are kind of like a, floating hotel that's on the water. So people that have hotel or management or hospitality skills in general, that's all going to be exactly what we need on board. We just, throw a few ropes, lines, and motors in the mix.
right. Okay. And responsible for people's so looking back, do you think being pushed into engineering gave you skills that later helped in leadership and problem solving at sea? Did any of that help you?
I would say definitely the engineering skills, like we said. I think at the beginning, what I wanted to do was become an engineer on a yacht, and just the way it all played out, I ended up going the captain route instead. I kind of realized I wanted to be outside. I didn't want to be in the engine room. I wanted to, feel the sea breeze, which you can probably assimilate with that.
All right.
But in terms of leadership, yeah, I think that as well. I mean, I've always been a bit mature for my age, but the company that I was working for, I was in kind of being groomed for a management or a leadership type of position. That was the program I was in. So I think leading teams and being in charge of budgets and all of that, like, even though it's a different skill, in a way, it's also exactly what's made me better at what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a noticeable change in episode 6 when you came on, and you were just like, "This is what we're doing." And people were like, "I like this guy." You weren't. You were so calm, and you knew what to do, and you had great leadership skills.
That's
So
awesome. Thank you.
you're welcome. So you climbed from deckhand to bosun to captain. What leadership trait made the biggest difference for you on that journey?
I would probably, on the one side, I would think I would like to thank, my organization skills. And, I like things to be done a certain way. I like SOPs, all of that. And I think that comes back from engineering and using that right or left side of the brain that's very analytical. But I think also people skills, to be honest, being someone that can be approachable, being someone that someone can talk to, and also just being willing to learn from other people. I think that's probably helped me get the furthest in my career, because at the beginning I didn't know anything. I mean, I was coming from being a desk jockey or a manufacturing engineer. Like, I didn't know anything about boats. I didn't know anything about line handling. And I think if it wasn't for having such an agreeable personality, I think it would have been a slower climb, or maybe I'd still, be an officer right now, struggling for that first captain position. But I had the right mentors, and I think that started out by having the right disposition and them thinking that I had something in me that could be taught.
Okay, so as a bosun, you're running deck operations under pressure. What's well, I think we might have already covered this. From one skill from that role that you think every sailor or aspiring captain should master?
Well, at the bosun position, it's an interesting and fun position, because the bosun's kind of, at least in yachting, it's like the last time that you're still spending the majority of your time on deck. Like, I still do some paperwork or safety related things, but for the most part, you're out there with the guys and gals fixing things, doing things. So it's very much so, organization and your day-to-day kind of planning skills. And that, even if you're in the bridge, that's the same skill set you use to organize contractors, to plan when you're going into the shipyard, right? It's all that logistical side. And I think that's probably the most I still use. Like, yeah, I go occasionally on deck now, and if the deckhand or the mate are having trouble doing something, of course, time to show them how to use the Sika gun, time to show them how to do some light carpentry. So that's still useful. But I think at that point, transitioning from bosun into captain, it's more the organizational side, the operations, and kind of understanding the budget, what we got, how we're going to make things happen, and deadlines.
You're a captain's dream come true.
Why is that?
Well, especially going through that bridge in St. Martin.
Right. Yeah, the bridge is super tight. I think I do, watching back, I was actually remarking the same thing to my girlfriend. I was saying, it's really helpful, I think, to be a captain that's telling the other captain what we're seeing, because if you've never driven the boat, you don't know that the captain's looking to know when they can swing or which distances matter. And I think I was good at that before, but I think after driving boats, then coming back down, it's like, okay, it's second nature. I know he's going to want to know this. I know he's going to want to know that.
Yeah, you said the stern has passed the end of the bridge. Is that what you said?
Hmm.
Um,
Correct.
and the other guy never said that. So, and he was loving it. The captain was loving it. So let's see. I have been through a bridge like that, but not in that big of a yacht. I have taken
Mm.
my boat through a bridge like that on the west coast of Florida. So let's see. You're under pressure when you're the bosun.
I would say so. Yeah, it's like you have a lot on your plate, right? At least in that position on that boat, that's 180 foot a yacht with three people under you. Like that's not a small feat. You've got a lot to do and a lot of manpower to kind of allocate. So even though it's just a middle management type of position, there's a lot on your plate there.
Yeah, you're in charge of safety and everything for
Hmm.
all the toys, all the water toys, and the people that are when they're out there. You guys are in charge of keeping everybody safe, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely true. So it's there's a lot at stake there. So it's good. Like you said, there's 10 guests, three crew under me, 180 foot of boat, and probably 30 millions worth of damage and sunken costs we can have. So there's a lot.
Whew. Yeah. Okay. So the yacht school. Okay, let's talk about that. What inspired you to launch your yacht school after nearly a decade in the industry? Was it a decade after being in the industry?
So I've got over a decade now. I think the school is getting close to the 3 year mark. So let's just round and say it was at the 7 year mark. It was while I was doing my first captain position. So after already doing that for almost a year, I had always been thinking about it, but I just realized like, hey, there's so much that I'm still learning, but there, just like I wish there was someone to teach me those things, and there are occasionally, but most of my career has been a lot of mentorship, and if I can't find someone, then going off and learning it on my own. And I just realized that there's not really a centralized place that caters to yacht crew, right? We're like this weird sliver inside the maritime industry. We're not a cruise ship. We're not a small, tiny motorboat. We're just this thing. And there's a lot of rules and things that go onto it, but there's just not a formal process of like, how do I get into it? How do I become the best yachty I can be? And ultimately, in the position I'm at
And how
now,
can I be
I,
competitive in
yeah,
yachting?
and even worse, when you start going into it, it's not only that we don't have that many places to go for good information, it's also that there's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of
Uh,
lack of information. So then people make bad decisions in terms of, how they try to get into it. And I realized that, look, I am barely in this, right? Like I stumbled upon a guy who was doing it. He told me about it. I banked it all, and I bet the farm, so to speak, and I went and did it. But there's so many people that maybe they wish they could do it, or they're trying to do it, but they're not really knowing which lever to pull, what's going to make the most difference. Is this even going to work? Because I mean, when I was starting out, like I remember at my going away party, I was in Houston, I was working in oil and gas, and I think half the people there thought I was crazy. Like they were you could tell in their faces when I was like, oh, I'm gonna go work on super yachts. They were like, wow, this guy is checking into some mental institution, and that feeling of loneliness or isolation, it's palpable. It's strong. Like my parents were like, what are you doing? Oh, sorry, I don't know if I can swear,
that's
but
all
like
right.
what
No problem.
they're like, what are you doing? You have an engineering degree. So I figured there's a lot of people having these conversations behind closed doors, and they need a
They're like,
place.
I just paid for you to get this degree.
Yeah. No, thankfully, at least I paid for it. But
Oh, okay. All
yeah,
right. All right.
I just thought that I thought that there needed to be a better way, and that's what kind of got me on this train. And I've always been tech focused because I'm an engineer, so it started like as a passion project, and then it kind of became a little bit more than that and started growing.
Well, I'm a real estate agent, and my clients that I sell Gulf front condos, like second homes, investment
Hmm.
properties, and the engineer clients are they can be difficult because they want so much information and they're going to analyze everything. But
Yeah,
when they make a decision, it's solid, but they want to see everything. And that's good.
yeah.
That's good. Some people don't even look at it. So
That's the biggest issue. It's funny you say that because that's exactly how I am. But in terms of some people not looking at it, like another thing is I couldn't tell you how many yacht crew don't ever read their contract. I think
mm,
maybe by and far 90% of the people I talk to and I go, hey, you look at the contract, they go, ooh, and that's one of the big points too. I wanted crew to understand what is in your contract, why is it there, and what should you be looking for, and how can we kind of decrypt the legalese so you know what the hell you're signing, because so many people have problems with that. So that's
are they all different?
well, there's standards of what they should have, but technically, if you're a small private boat, then there's a lot of leeway on what you can do compared to like a really big or commercially run yacht. So there is variation, and it's good to know and spot things ahead of time, because sometimes it's just a conversation and then they realize, oh yeah, like this person knows what you're talking about, like that they need better terms rather than being, for lack of a better term, being taken advantage of.
Sure. And that happens.
Yeah. I mean, yachting's a worldwide industry, and the thing is, I try to push people into like a very professional super yachting type because we're protected by a lot of rights. But if you're just, maybe if you look at the boat behind me, that's like a, less than 100 foot. If you're just a local that decides to start working on that, and you guys just work out some kind of cash agreement, that's a lot different than what we do. So knowing that you can go from that to maybe this, and what's regular and what's right, like that, it's a big deal. And I think it's just education.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So if someone's starting with zero experience, what's the first realistic step your program helps them take?
The first thing I like to do, and one of the immediate things is, we hop on a call, and I also give them this questionnaire to kind of unload everything that they've done. Like I look at the resume, their CV, because everyone's starting from a different place. And even though, like people like me, I had no experience at all, I had some hospitality. So we start putting together your CV or your resume, because that's the first thing that people leave for last, actually. But I think it's good to do it at the beginning, because then we look at it and we can see, okay, you're lacking in this. Maybe it's a good idea to go freelance or do this in the meantime. Like, for example, I had one guy, he worked in IT his whole career, and he had never even set foot on a boat. And that's fine. There's people that make that work, but he wanted to be more competitive. So thankfully, since we start from that at the beginning, I sat with him and I was like, look, there's a few different websites that you can go to. You're already in Europe. You can even just like freelance, help deliver some sailboats, or just go see if you even like boats. So, by doing that, then it helped him later on, because then he goes through the course, he gets the right certifications. And then when he gets to the actual marina and he's looking for work on a yacht, they're like, okay, this guy's not just, a Swiss IT guy. He actually has already been meet on a sail ship. He's already washed a boat. He's already, not just willing, but he has some skill set. So, for some people it's that. For some people, I recommend them go work in a bar or a restaurant for a little bit just to have some customer service. It's different advice for everyone. But if you start from the beginning, imagining where you want to go, I think it's easier to set goals.
Well, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. Someone's asking a question. It's a good idea to first find out if you get seasick, right? Because some people don't even know it. They get too far into it.
Oh, so the question, CV stands for curriculum vitae, which is a resume. And to the seasickness thing, it's actually funny, because I think on yachts we're actually quite blessed, because we're the least prone for seasickness, because the yachts typically, especially if they're even above like 100 foot, you typically will have some kind of stabilization, either stabilizer fins or a seakeeper or something, right? Because the people that ride our boats, the guy who owns this boat, like he doesn't like rocking. Like he's not in it for the same reasons that you are. So they want the most stable ride that they can get. So we pay big money to make sure that the boat's not rocking too much, and we pick the anchorages that you're not going to rock too much. And then on top of that, if it's going to be really bad, and I'm like, hey boss, like, we're going to be getting hit this passage with 5 foot seas, you're not going to feel comfortable. I mean, we'll just change the dates or go somewhere else, because they also don't want to damage the boat, because we have expensive artwork, because we have expensive custom whatever decoration that you can't just pull off the shelf. So they're really flexible. And if you tell them, hey, it's not a good idea, this isn't going to end well, like they'll just go, okay, let's move the trip. Because on top of that, these guys are the ones who run the businesses, so they can move their life however they want. They'll be like, okay, I'm just going to go hang out in Saint-Tropez for another week. I'll see you guys down there. So it's nice, because if you're prone to seasickness, you don't even go into rough seas that often. Very, very seldom.
Okay. Danielle from over on Instagram says, you're a real asset to this season. Your experience really shows.
Thanks, Danielle.
Yeah, she's a friend of mine. She's a fan.
That's awesome.
Okay, so I do have a question about. I've never been on a cruise ship. It's just not really
Hmm.
my thing.
Hmm.
Just to go get on there with another bunch of Americans and go to. I would rather experience, on my own boat and go there and experience the country and the people. So, but
100%.
I've heard of people getting seasick on a cruise ship. Is so the yachts are. I'm showing some ignorance here. They're better.
No.
They've got the stabilizers and everything more so than a cruise ship. You think?
Well, what I can say to that is like everyone, no matter what, I think everyone has a limit to they will eventually get seasick, right? Like even the most hardened person, if you put them in the middle of a hurricane, at some point, your balance comes off.
Yeah.
But some people are crazy prone to it to the point, like you said, that they're seasick on a cruise ship, which I think probably like 90 or 95% of people would never, right? Unless it
Okay.
was so bad that honestly, something crazy is happening. But those things are so stable, especially the newer ones. They fit like 10,000 people on them. So if you feel like you get seasick on a cruise ship, then yeah, the stabilizer is probably not going to be the solution. But if you're anyone
Not the
else,
career for you. Okay.
yeah. But the thing is, for most people, they're not going to go through it. Or if you get seasick on yachts, it's going to be very few times that we're put into that situation. And there's always medication for it and a bunch of other remedies that people
Yeah.
use. Like I've had a lot of crew that they make do in a yachting career just fine with the occasional seasickness, and you
Right.
get used to it too.
Sure. Okay, so you teach new crew to avoid expensive mistakes. What's the most common and costly mistake beginners make?
Well, one of the big things, and for whether you're Americans probably less so because I think there's less maritime licenses. But when you're coming from different parts of the world, there's a lot of different courses and certifications you can get in the world of boats, right? And a lot of people, they go by what they see in some blog or what someone says, and they actually end up buying so many more courses, and a lot of them, like, either they have nothing to do with super yachting, or they're just not necessary, or even they weren't for you at this stage in your career. They were actually for later. So I see sometimes people drop, 5,000. I've had a crew member that dropped almost $10,000 in a bunch of different packs and courses and things that they were told to get. And then you see, hey man, you could have done that for, a couple thousand in your country, or even less, $1,500. And at least if you would have spent that money instead, just like focusing on trying to get some work, you would have started building your CV, as we were saying, or your resume, and that would get you so much further, because these people are sold these promises that like kind of almost like the more you spend, the faster you'll find a job. And it's not true. Up to a certain point, you need certain
That's
licenses
nice.
to be legal, to be on the
Yeah.
boat, but you don't need to go and buy the whole catalog, because it's not going to help you. You still stay day one stepping onto a boat for the first time.
So in this case, you don't always get what you pay for.
Right.
Okay, so Danielle, I just copy and pasted this from Instagram. I've this is about the show, so if we can answer
Sure.
this, great. I've got a below deck question. Should you have been the one to tell Captain Carey about Scottish and the guests? And do you now think he crossed the line? Are you allowed to answer that just now?
I think maybe it's best if we set that one for the end when we're doing the Below Deck segment, just to be on
Okay.
the safe side.
So for people who don't know, because I haven't said it, we have the representative from Bravo coming on when we talk about the show. That's a requirement, and that's great. That'll be exciting. We'll get to meet the rep from Bravo. So Danielle, we're going to save that question. And she also says, I am too old, 55 years young, to start a career in yachting. And she has a question mark.
So am I too old, she's saying?
Yeah.
Or she thinks she's old, but she wants to just confirm.
I think she wants to know. Can I do it?
The oldest or youngest, however you want to say it, the oldest young person or the youngest old person that I've helped is pretty much at the cutoff of about 50. And it's not to say that you couldn't later. It's just getting harder and harder at that point, right? Because like in your 40s, I know plenty of people that they're sailors, or their body's still running on all cylinders. They look young in the face. Like there's no aging there. And I'm just not to say that you can at 55, right? There's so many different types of boating, and there's sailboats in the Caribbean, and there's so many things. But I like to tell people like 45 to 50 is my sweet spot for like when you should consider switching. If you have it in you and you really want to do it, go for it, of course. But I just think unless you get in quickly at that point, then you're kind of on your window is getting smaller and you don't have that much experience yet. Like once you're in, like, let's say I could ride this off into the sunset if I want, right? I'll have my licenses. I can be 70 and still be captain of a yacht, but
Right.
I'd be having a different conversation with myself starting at 55 because it might have been hard to accrue the same kind of experience. So I think it's not impossible, but after 50, it does get a bit harder. And the oldest that I've helped get in is probably 45 to 50. I have seen a 50-something-year-old deckhand, and it's just less. That's what I say. Not impossible, but just taper expectations.
Would it depend on maybe you're one or two person on a yacht, a smaller yacht, but the setup you have on Below Deck, I can see why an older person, that just, it'd be too much, with the tight quarters, no privacy. I think the older you get, you're like, I'm not sharing a room with anybody.
Exactly.
I think that's okay if you're like in your 20s, you've got a little more
30s.
tolerance. Yeah, you've got a little more tolerance for that.
Yeah, I think like you said it, if you're on a, for lack of a better term, a below deck type of yacht, like a big white boat, as we call them, that I think if you want to be 50, you should probably be a chief, right? Like a chief engineer or a chief officer or the captain. You wouldn't be starting there. But if for, like you said, a small yacht, like, or maybe even like, wow, that was bad. Like that one, you could do it, right? You never know. That might just be a captain and like a deck.
Stew or stew/deckhand.
Exactly. And that would be much easier to get into. And then maybe you can go and become captain of that. And then you just jump the whole thing. So like there's ways to do it. And that's what I try to help people find, like what works best for you, because it's not the same as everyone.
Okay. Let's see. For sailors dreaming of starting a charter business, because we got to tie this into what specific skills from your school could prepare them to succeed with clients, crew, and operations?
I think like I mentioned in the course, I kind of like to give a holistic or like a full explanation of the yachting industry, because whether if you want to be crew, it's still good to know who your management company is and why they exist and how the recruiter makes money and how you fit into the puzzle. What does the charter broker expect of the boat? What are the implications of that when we have a charter? What's going to happen? Like what's the normal tip, right? So I kind of go into a lot of all that stuff. But one of the biggest things about my course, and it's not just a course, it's not even just coaching with me, it's a community. So you've got a bunch of other crew in there. So it's really cool because everyone in there is they're already invested in their career, right? So you've got like this group of people that do care and do want to know more and are hungry for knowledge. So that's like the best place to continue getting more information and working with. And I can't tell you, when you are dealing with other people that are kind of at your level, you just or even more, you kind of like just get a lot smarter really fast. So even for me, being a captain and being connected to people ahead of me, it lets me kind of download that information faster. All being said, the concepts of charters, how they work, sample contracts, all that stuff I cover and we talk about. And again, you have this mastermind of people that are also going through that can teach you more.
Okay. For sailors looking to cruise the world, what lessons from your school transfer directly to passage making and managing their own boats? Because you mentioned in your email to me, I thought it was interesting from episode 36 of Salty Podcast. You said, while Shane and Amy shared their cruising adventures in episode 36, I would offer a yacht captain's insider perspective from someone who guided white boats through these waters professionally for years. Can you tell me more about that? That was interesting.
Sure. So I figured we could talk, a little bit more about sailing the Caribbean or going through a lot of these places, but probably from a different vantage point, like as a sailboat and going to some of those marinas, let's say even cruising the Bahamas versus what yachts typically do. And, going down to the Exuma chain, everything from logistics, how we actually run these things and how we do. I'm willing, and also the marinas that we go to, everything's a little bit different. So I figured we could talk a little bit about your Caribbean experience or just kind of go back and forth about that, because the thing that's cool about yachts is just not only are we like a big enterprise, but we actually really affect whatever local infrastructure that we plug into. Like there's so many businesses that revolve around yachts, right? From the floristry to the people that bring us the food to when we buy fish. Like everything is on just such a big scale. It's interesting.
Yeah, so in St. Martin, you could even create your own carnival for your boat. That was amazing. I was like, "Oh, this isn't going to be good." And then all of a sudden, the fire breathers and the walking on the stilts and the band was awesome.
The band was really good. Yeah, I think that's one of the funny and cool things about yachting is, there really is no request that's too large. And I mean, if I've been in the Bahamas, and we've got a certain type of meat or food item that the boss really wants, and we fly things in sometimes. That's the scale of how it is. I've flown in a $25,000 meat order from South Florida into certain ports because that's just what they wanted, or that's what we needed, or we were out of certain things. So it's just an interesting lifestyle. Like, whatever your opinion on it is, it's still just logistically, it's a lot of hocus pocus to make the magic happen. I remember even when we were in Canouan, which is a small island in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, same thing. It was COVID, and we couldn't leave. And I can't remember why. We really were kind of stuck on that island. And up to a certain point, we were literally flying in supplies. We were flying in water equipment, water toys, and whatever, because we still had guests aboard. But we really were completely cut off from the outside world. So it was just literally flying in private planes that had the stuff that we needed. And it's just to make that happen, it's really, there's a lot of hands and a lot of feet moving on the ground to do that.
That's good. So the communities there can make. I've watched the show over the years, and every kind of request was made, and they made it happen. Things were being flown in, lots of money spent.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to feel poor, work on a yacht. Like it's a really humbling experience.
Can you give us an idea on how much it costs for 3 days on that yacht?
Yeah,
For
sure thing.
say 4 people.
So if you're going to charter a yacht that's about that size, like that St. David, you're looking at, let's say it's about $200,000 for the week. And that's before we talk about fuel and all the other, what do we call them? All the like additional expenses that get accrued. So if you're looking at a daily rate, you're looking at, what, man, you know what they say, when you're someone's looking at you, you're worse at math. So, so you're looking at what, like,
I'll figure whatever. What do you want me to figure?
Well, let's say 3 days of that. So you're going to divide by 7, multiply by 3. But anyway, you're looking at probably about 70,000, right? If you're looking at 3 days
per day. Now, does that include food?
No. So I was saying for like 3 nights, you're looking at probably like 70, 80,000. Depends on the boat is older or newer, but on the show, you can take it per day, but in real life and real yachting, you typically wouldn't. Like that boat would never charter per day. It would be per week. So you'd look at 7, 10, 14, 28 days. That's kind of how we would roll. And that's, again, before fuel, before dockage, before food, before anything like that, like any incidentals. That's just to have the shell of the boat sitting there without spending any fuel, without doing anything else.
That's amazing. So what if so Joyce from Instagram says, love Below Deck, love all these videos. Thanks, Joyce.
Thank you.
So what do you think the total would be? I guess it depends on the person's taste. If they just want hamburgers and fries, or if they want lobster, and so it's all based on what the preference sheets say.
Correct. But, most people, I've never been on a charter where we didn't pull out all the stops on food, right? Like, even if people have particular tastes, like, oh, I don't like shellfish, that's fine. We're going to still get the highest cuts of all the other meat, and we're going to have the best fish, and we're going to have, everything's going to be to yachting level. So even if the preference sheet says, cut corners here or whatever, like, we're still going to spend a lot on food. So let's say if you're spending 200,000, let's say the bill depends how much you cruise, honestly, but I'd say you're looking at, I would be expecting that bill to be closer to 300,000 than 200,000 by the time you're signing it.
That is crazy money.
Yeah,
Hugo, that is just...
and that's that boat. I mean, I've had friends that work on, like, not, what do I want to say in American, 300 foot or more. Like, you could be looking at several million per week. You could be looking at 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3 million per week on those type of yachts.
And as far as the crew goes, do they make anything other than, let's say we're not talking about below deck. Let's just say
Sure.
it's not below deck, and then we'll talk about below deck if we can. Just on a yacht like that, that's not being shown on TV. What do they make any kind of salary or hourly or?
On yachts, yeah, for sure. We're not slave labor. We're getting paid, so don't worry. We get base salaries, and then on top of that, we get the tips. So, any kind of yacht, let's say entry level for like deckhand and stew, we try to shoot for it's anywhere from like 3 to 4,500. That's what I'm seeing a lot of new crew. It depends on where you are in the world, what size yacht, but that's kind of like entry level. And it just goes up from there. But they're making that every month, whether it's boats used, whether it's sitting on the dock, whether it's moving. It's just that's how it is. That's like the base salary, and then there's so many factors that go into that after licenses, career, and right negotiation skills. But people start going up from there, and then when you throw in charter, I mean, people are doubling or tripling their salary. With the tips, because you could be making 3,000. I've made 5,000. I've seen 10,000 on a certain charter per week
Per person.
And then per person. And if you're talking over the summer that you have, let's say 2 charters per month, that deckhand or that stew is coining some good money. And well, that's why I'm here, and that's why so many people are here.
Right. And so, what about the engineer and all those guys that we don't see very often on the show? Do those guys get any of the tip?
Yeah, so basically on a boat, everyone who's working should be getting the tip, and it should be even. I think for the industry, that's pretty standard. Like even if you're the captain versus the deckhand, it's not that we're going to say, oh, I'm making 10 or 12 and he's making 3. Like, no, it's split
so the
down the
captain
middle.
gets that too.
Yeah. And
nice.
You could make an argument that, hey, well, the people on the ground are working harder, but I think it's just easiest to not pick and choose. And we're a crew, we're one team, one family, and we just cut it and split it evenly. And, everyone's got their reason to be here. No one's too big or too small. Everyone's pretty integral, right? The guy who's woman or man who's driving it in is just as valuable as the person who's cleaning up after everyone eats. Like without anyone, the whole thing collapses.
100%. I think the captain deserves it. I mean, all the work he's put in to get that job, and the fish stinks at the head. If something's either if it's a good experience or a bad experience, it all goes on the captain. So I definitely think he deserves it. So when people are figuring a tip, is there some suggestion made to the clients? It's like percentage wise or something?
This is a really interesting question. It's a really delicate topic in the yachting industry, and I'll give it from a crew perspective, and then I'll give it from the broker.
Cheap.
I think this tip standards follow really like American custom. Like I think everyone's saying basically, okay, if someone tips 10%, then it was like completely okay, kind of in the bad side. If it's 15%, it's like okay on the good side. 18%, you think it was pretty good. 20%, wow, that must have been, pretty damn good. And then whenever I see more than that, same as if in a restaurant, you're like, wow, that must have been out of this world. I would never shoot for that one. And I don't even assume the 20. I think if you try to go in and look at it, it's going to be 10 or 15. Then you're either delighted or you're like, okay, we're right on the money. And if you're looking at it from the broker's perspective, when they're trying to sell as many charters as possible, I mean, they'll tell you, tip is optional. Throw 5% in there if you want, because they want you to just book another charter. But that's why the dance is always in the middle. The crew wants 20, the broker wants 0. So 10 to 15 is a good place to meet in the middle.
Well, what does it matter to them if the guy tips 20%? Doesn't hurt him, right?
I guess they just think that then you'll have more money to tip to book another charter, I guess, because if the charter was only, I don't know, 200 grand versus 240, I don't know. It kind of doesn't make sense when you think about it logically, but no. They're just they know that people want the lowest price, and they're competing with other brokers that are cutting here or getting deals there. So the sales game is always different. The crew's always the last one at the end of the stick, and they're always going to win. Crap rolls downhill.
Well, Peyton just showed up.
Oh, great.
Peyton, she doesn't have her camera on, but so we're getting close to those questions, but let's see. Let's see what else we got here. For sailors looking to cruise the world, which lessons from your school could transfer directly to that? I might have already said that. Did I already ask that one?
You did, but we didn't talk about it so much. But we do prep for a lot of the exams and a lot of the certifications that later lead to captain licenses. And again, like I was telling you before, that's something as I started out doing this more so to get people into yachting, and now as we have people that are progressing in their careers, like the content is also maturing with them and with the audience that we've got. So that's what I'm busy doing now and putting in now. Like we have we roll on like the British licenses, or internationally the yachting kind of follows the UK more so than the US Coast Guard licenses. So there's certain courses like the Yacht Master or some of the RYA courses where we do talk about navigational skills or meteorology or just general ship's knowledge. Like all those things do transfer over. Like even if I'm applying it to a yacht, a hand bearing compass and doing a dead reckoning is going to be, I'm going to use that a lot less than you, of course, because I've got all this fancy equipment, but we're both learning the same skill set, because at the end of the day, sailing is sailing, or in my case, motoring, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. So we have to learn all that. And well, I took ASA 101, 103, and 104, and we covered it there, chart plotting. And then, of course, for the captain's license, there's a serious section on that. Thankfully, I made 100 on that section.
Nice. That's perfect.
I was a nervous wreck. So I'm gonna show your website here real quick, and so people can come to this website. It's Super Sunday School, Super Yacht.
Super Yacht.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It just sounds like a church service without the yacht.
So that is an interesting name. So there are courses on here. Tell me where to go.
So you're already on it. So that Superyacht Sunday School, that's the homepage. Like I was mentioning before, the big thing about it is this is all about, I want to teach and educate the next generation of yachties. So really, we have so many resources on there that are free, including in the other page. It was like a master.
Hey, I'm Hugo from Superyacht Sunday School.
How to work?
I'm going to be walking you through how you can become world traveling super yacht crew without any boating experience.
What they can do if they want to.
I didn't have any, and so many other yachties don't either.
On top of that,
yachting is one of the most underrated careers that almost no one knows exists. And I'm going to be walking you through step by step.
It's really good about helping you kind of identify, because there's a lot of commitments that get into this type of lifestyle, and that's the free training that we have. Like I'll walk you through like what you can expect, what the salaries are going to be, why it's so great, and I think that's a really good place for people to get their feet wet and just see like, am I really cut out for this, or do I really want to do it? Because it is an absolutely amazing career and experience, but it's also not for the faint of heart, right? And if you're not, I have a good friend that says if you're not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. So if anyone is curious or even thinking like, could I do that? I recommend check out the free training, and that masterclass is going to walk you through what you need to do to find a job.
All right. So if anybody's thinking about this, let me put up your email, because it also has the website in it and the domain.
Perfect.
Hugo.Ortega@superyachtsundayschool.com. So if you're thinking about it, and maybe you're thinking about sailing around the world, but you're like, I don't have any experience doing any of that, this would be a great place to start, wouldn't you say?
I'd say so. My first all my Atlantic crossings have been on a yacht, but I mean, I went from having never really stepped foot aboard anything more than a ferry, and now I'm captaining yachts, and that doesn't mean you have to be a captain, but I think it's a good way to see the sea and also to make money. Back when I started, I just wanted to travel and earn money, and this was a lot more money than teaching English in China, and it was a lot more easy to do than getting certified to do something across the world, So it's a really quick and easy way to get to see a lot of cool places, and places that not only are they cool, but you might never have been there because they're so expensive. Monaco for the Grand Prix, that was my first season. Saint-Tropez, Cannes during the film festival, like all these really cool experiences to see, not just by water, but by yacht.
Yeah, you mentioned in that episode, you were talking to somebody and everybody went, whoa, you just dropped some wisdom on the table. And like, where have you been? Where'd this guy come from? You were talking about how you learned to be around so many different types of people from so many different areas around the world.
Yeah. It was also a quote that one of my first chief officers told me. He was just saying that, we get paid good money in yachting, and as we were just talking about, but, the reason we do isn't just because the charters are hard. It's because, life at sea, which, isn't always the easiest. There's moments of loneliness. You miss holidays or you miss other special events, and the payoff is great. But you just have to know that it comes at a cost, and the cost is worth it, or else we wouldn't be here. But that's, what it takes to be a professional. That's what it takes to be great in this industry, is to realize all that. And, we are from different backgrounds. You're from South Africa. You're English. I'm American. Or, I also speak Spanish as my mother tongue. So all these reasons that we shouldn't really make sense and make it work. But if we can kind of fit this ragtag band together, we can actually do some really great things that are outside most people's skill set, or even most people's desire. And I think that's the beautiful part about this industry, that you see cool places, you change as a person, and you also meet so many people. And it's not just the impressions that people leave on you, but even the impressions you leave on them, as we all kind of, help enrich each other's lives.
So the people that are in yachting, when maybe they age out or they get burned out, whatever, where do you think they normally, what's the next step for a lot of these people? Like maybe they don't become a captain on a super yacht. Like Eddie, remember Eddie from season 1, 2, and 3 or whatever?
Correct.
He was running a tugboat somewhere. So
he had his the U.S. Coast Guard license that he has. I'm not sure if he has his 100-ton or what he had, but it also covers the tugboat. So he's doing that. So that's kind of the obvious thing, right? A captain can phase into other type of captains. I know captains that now drive ferries or towboats or whatever. But let's say if you want to make a life on land, there's the easy answer. First, you could stay in the yachting community and become, like a recruiter, a broker, a manager, a service provider, right? There's so many engineers that go, man, I thought I was making it when I was the chief engineer. Now I'm on land sending that invoice back to the yacht, and now I'm making more money than I ever did, because I'm running my own business or freelance business, just fixing the same problems for more. So that's a route for engineers. But I mean, the cool thing about yachting is that some people also just save so much money that they're able to kind of go chase what their original dream was. I just saw on Forbes, they published an article. It was a super yacht captain and chief stewardess that quit yachting, and they opened up this luxury boutique hotel. I'm not sure if it was somewhere out west. I don't know if it was California, but something like that. And that story is really common. Like, I have a lot of friends that now have an Airbnb business or properties that they bought.
That's because it's hospitality. That makes sense.
Yeah. And other people start businesses. I started this where I'm still in yachting, but there's a lot of other businesses. It takes a special person to get into yachting, and that mentality will kind of keep working with you. Like, you can kind of keep doing other things, or a lot of people buy property. Like I said, it's a few things, but hospitality or working in hotels, that's also something a lot of chief stews get into. There's really, the sky's the limit. I've seen event planning, everything.
Yeah. And so on Below Deck, it's a 6-week gig, right? Do a lot of them they leave there and they go get on another boat somewhere?
It's a mix. Like, I left Below Deck and I came back to work on Superyacht Sunday School, and it probably was about 6 months until I started working on a yacht again. Some people hop off and go directly to working on yachts. I mean, I think some people even already have their job, and that was like their vacation time. Like, I've kind of seen a little bit of everything. And then some people go off and, they take a break, because it is it takes a lot of energy to do that experience. And that's the good thing about yachting too. You can take a break between working. No one's asking, blocks of time that are missing in your resume is pretty common in yachting.
So is there a lot of jobs available in this?
I'd say what the estimates show that there's probably about 100,000 crew in the super yacht sector. So that would be yachts that are over 80 foot or 78 foot, I think is the cutoff, and up. And the thing is that the number of yachts is just growing. Like, again, whatever you think about the industry, like, it is growing. There is a more discrepancy in wealth than ever, and there's more and more of a need for crew as these yachts are getting bigger and bigger.
There's a lot of people's industries are getting phased out, for reasons of AI or whatever technology. But this is an industry that's okay, right? It's growing. Would you say?
I would say for the foreseeable future, because we are such a luxury and boutique thing, like, yes, I mean, I think maybe one day Elon Musk or his grandkid creates a robot that's just as nice to serve you, and there's no need for a stewardess or a steward. No. And there's
machines. You can't put that slide out. Come on, you can't put the slide out.
Yeah, true. But for the most part, I think this is an industry that's going to need the human touch, especially
awesome.
at this price point.
Wow. So anybody that's looking for a job, this might be for you. And I like what you said is like, you don't have to spend $1 million. Like some other places might ask you. So Hayden of SV Island Spirit says, do you have a favorite destination, favorite island, harbor?
So my answer is going to be a little bit unorthodox, even though I work on a yacht. My favorite place that we've been to on the yacht was Norway. My second summer aboard, we went to Norway. It was a 90-meter yacht, a 300-foot boat. So we crossed the Atlantic. We went up the English Channel. We came out. We went to Norway. Man, that was unbelievable. Like that was such a beautiful place, and it's so different.
In the summer?
We went in the summer, yeah, of course. Like if you go in the winter, it's a tough luck there. But we went to Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. That was that summer, and it was.
Like you were in the North Sea, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was beautiful. I mean, the water was cold. It was a lot colder than you would expect, but
they say it's really rough.
Well, if you pick the right time to go, like you're obviously watching the weather. We stopped in the UK for a couple of days before crossing as well. You can find a good window. But you just have to be mindful because, the seas are more violent. But you think waking up and coming on deck, as you know, in the morning when the sun's coming out, like it's one of the most beautiful things. But I think for me, like seeing that on a fjord and just seeing that picturesque, you can see the mountains still have snow at the top. Like it's just something so special. I've never seen something like it. And I think, we sometimes get spoiled. Not that all islands look the same or all beaches look the same. I know they don't. There's pink sand beach. There's really nice white sand beaches. But that was so different that it just really stuck out to me.
Okay. So, Hayden, you're going to have to go to Norway. He keeps his boat in the Caribbean and he goes and sails for 6 months out of the year. So.
Oh, fair. Yeah. I mean, even if you don't bring your boat, if you can go and do some boating in Norway, and especially in that northwest part, it's incredible. It's bar none.
Okay, should we bring Peyton out now?
I didn't know she was going to be out. I thought she was just listening to see that we always talk about Below Deck.
So what happens if you say something wrong?
I think
she'll send you a text or something.
I'll get canceled, then I just won't show up the next episode.
Oh no. Okay, let's see if there's any more that I wanted to talk about the school. Your school isn't just about getting a job. You also talk about building purpose. How do you help students find fulfillment beyond just paychecks? I bet you got a good answer for that.
Well, it's actually funny because I was talking about this earlier today. Like money is a great motivation for a lot of things, but only so far. Like if money's the only reason you're doing something, eventually you're not going to be able to brute force it anymore. When the hard times come, you're just going to go, screw this, I'm out. So I like to say that for yachting, it's about there's 3 different reasons that most people get into yachting. It's money, or it's the travel, or it's the freedom. And hopefully it's a combination of everything. And in a perfect world, the money is the smallest one. So even people like myself that didn't ever see themselves as mariners or expecting to really make a career at sea, the travel was so strong, that desire to see the world, to meet different people, that's what really pulled me. And then the freedom from getting out of my 9 to 5 and no 2 days being the same, right? That was all that fuel that I was like, wow, I'm in love. So, I mean, I try to, especially at the beginning, kind of help figure out what is your driver and make sure that we're stimulating that and seeing how we get that working. Like some people, they want to travel and see the world. So I would recommend certain type of yachts and programs that are going to have world cruising itineraries, or start in a port that's more likely to have those type of boats. Some people just want to be on a boat, but they want to make money and have a stable life. So some of those people might just sit in Florida, go occasionally to the Bahamas on a smaller yacht, and their life is more predictable. They have more time on land. They've got a partner, etc. So I just try to cater everyone's journey to what they're looking for. And again, it can always change. Like you don't have to be the same person you were yesterday, but that kind of personal touch is what I try to do, because at the end, like you said, it's not just about money, and you need to have something else that's driving you.
Do any of the yachties not have a place back wherever, and they just move from boat to boat? Like they don't even have an apartment or a house or anything? Are there?
Yeah, I mean that's very common, especially at the beginning, right? When you're starting out, it's pretty soon that you just got rid of everything. And then once people get into yachting and start saving money, that's when you start. A lot of people will buy an investment property or a vacation home. Or
you can really stack up some money by not having some place rented or anything, or no car or anything. I mean, you could really save some money, right?
Yeah, you can. I mean, that's why, when I was working as an engineer and I was making $100,000 a year, still, I felt like I had less money than when I started doing yachting my first season, and I was only getting $3,000 per month plus the tips, because when I was working on land, I had the apartment, the car, a girlfriend, bills, everything. Like
the girlfriend.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap. Like life comes with a lot of commitments, and when you're at sea, it's nice. I mean, you go through a period where all you pay is a cell phone bill. Like, I'll sign me up.
Sure. Yeah. If you're in your 20s or 30s, what an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and even your 40s for some. I mean, it's never too late to restart.
So let's go back to Danielle's question now that Peyton's here. And Peyton is the representative from Bravo. She's backstage. She doesn't have her camera on, so I'm assuming she doesn't want to come on, but shout out to Peyton. So let's go back to this question. Should you have been the one to tell Captain Carey about Scottish and the guest? And do you now think he crossed the line?
So the reason I didn't, the answer to this question is yes, 100% yes, right? If I find out that he did something like that, or that he's saying something like that, it falls on me as the leader of the department to deal with that. The problem that happened was the first strike, I wasn't at the beach, so I never really saw what was going on
in the water.
In the water, right? So for anyone that doesn't have the context, one of the deckhands got extra comfortable with one of the guests in the water. Anyway, I wasn't there. I didn't see it. He was sent in a second time by the leader that was there, the Chief Stew. So obviously someone thought that was okay at the time. Anyway, it comes back to me later. We're all drinking. We get in the car I'm quite drunk at the time, and he mentions this. And at the time, I think it's a joke, right? Because he just mentioned this. Surely he couldn't be this stupid. Surely this can't be real, right? Later on in the jacuzzi, he brings it up, and I'm already in bed. So I don't know that he's told the whole crew this, which at that point would have made me feel like, oh shit, this is actually a real thing. And because he had done such crazy antics at dinner, I really forgot about that conversation. Again, the alcohol doesn't help. I'd forgotten that he mentioned that in the car, because he proceeded to sleep with someone like on the beach and in a hotel, in a bathroom that night.
Bathroom, yeah.
And like there was so much other chaos that then later that day when Carrie calls me, that's when I was like, oh shit, like I completely had put this aside. Because then the next morning, we do the meeting, we start cleaning and whatever. And again, he mentions it to a couple other people in situations when I wasn't there. So anyway, long story short, fault of mine. I should have clocked it, maybe wrote it down or whatever, but I forgot about it until the next day. But of course, there was instant regret there. I was like, oh shit, yeah, this is my place. And I was actually, I felt quite bad about it.
And you didn't have the luxury of seeing what the camera saw until later.
Yeah, exactly. Hindsight's 20/20, especially when there's a TV show.
Do they ever come and say, hey, behind the scenes, you need to know, do any of the camera people talk?
No. So we're left to our own devices. Whatever you see us doing is because we're actually that crazy and have no knowledge of what's going on.
So those camera people, they're not feeding you information about what somebody else is doing.
No, it's a neutral party. There's no back and forth.
I could see how if somebody got a little, they might want to share some information. Some of the camera crew, they might have to sign some NDAs or something. Okay, let's do a little rapid fire, and this is about the show: reality versus real life. Let's go. Coffee or energy drinks before a long charter?
I'm a coffee guy.
Okay. Favorite super yacht gadget or toy?
Ooh, interesting. Ooh, I like, well, it's not really a gadget. Like I'm thinking for the yacht, there's something called dynamic positioning where the yacht can literally keep itself in place, using the thrusters and engine without moving. I think that's really cool in terms of like a gadget for the actual boat.
Do they all have that?
No, it's really big yachts will have that. I think probably when you're above the 300-foot range, you can count on it. I haven't had it on anything smaller than that, but newer stuff, I don't know what's going on. And in terms of gadget for the crew, I think I was always really big when I was a deckhand on like a Leatherman, because it had, it's like a Swiss Army knife. You have a screwdriver, you have a knife, you have everything. And I think that's really handy to have on deck.
Okay. Most jaw-dropping destination you ever dropped an anchor? You already answered that one. What's more stressful, docking in tight quarters or dealing with a VIP guest?
Ooh, that's a good question. I guess it depends on the size of the boat. I think, docking on a really big boat like St. David, it is difficult for sure. But I've had some guests that are really difficult to manage. So I'll say the boat, but there's guests that can be worse.
Yeah. Okay. What's the most crazy request from a guest that made you almost say, this isn't worth it?
Oh, that's so hard, because we're always taught that there's no demand too big. But I'll probably, yes, I know one.
Okay.
I was working, so that summer that I was working in Norway, Denmark, Sweden on that yacht, we were in Denmark. The boss was really big on cycling. And we were waiting, we wherever we went, we had a caravan, we had multiple cyclists, we had a car that had all the supplies and backup stuff in case one of the bikes went down. Anyway, I was always managing that. The car's not there, and he's getting really, really antsy. He's like, we gotta go. And I was like, sir, I'm standing there with all the kit. I was like, I can't go. We need the car. And he's like, hey, that car over there, I want it. And I look, and it's at a red light. There's just a minivan with a family in there. And I, for a second, I was like, is he asking me to go like buy that car or steal it or what's going on? But I was like, no, boss, I can't go take that car. Like, there's people in it. And luckily the other car pulls up pretty much at the same time while we're talking. But it was just such an, I didn't even have time to follow up. Like, I'm pretty sure he was like, no, make sure that car gets taken somehow.
He wanted you to buy it?
Pretty much. He was saying, I want that car. Like, go sort that out. And I was like, man, he's pretty out of touch. Like, I can't just do that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're dealing with
people who never get said no to.
You're dealing with crazy money. That's got to be hard, okay? Because just there's that kind of stuff probably happens a lot, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you don't ever get told no, and when you have enough money, what they say, FU money, right? Where you can just kind of make any situation go away. I mean, I've had one of the bosses I was working for too, the yacht owner. He didn't like how the neighbor's dock looked because it was kind of disheveled, and he told us, "Hey, get a contractor, go fix that dock. Like, tell them we're fixing it because I don't want to look at it that it's so broken and messed up every time I'm on my boat." So, yeah, sometimes the requests are pretty strange, and they're not even on the boat anymore.
So this was at a marina somewhere?
No, it was at his private residence. So he kind of lived at like a headland, which again, I won't say where it is, but he technically was living on land that was like national park too. Like, I think I don't know who he bribed or whatever, but he was not on land that he was supposed to be able to live on. He was
leasing some public land.
So he was living there. And anyway, you could see across the bay, it wasn't a giant bay, but you could see, the next person's house. Yeah, their dock was all messed up. Maybe a storm hit it. I don't remember, but he paid to have that fixed, so he no longer had to look at such an unsightly.
I would do something like that if I had crazy money. Why not?
Yeah.
So how do you manage? You've got currently on this. You've got 2 love triangles going on there. I've never seen a season so crazy with that kind of stuff. How do you? Well, I mean, and you came into it and you were probably like, what's going on? This is crazy. What did you think of all that? You looked very calm.
Yeah, I think I try to stay calm in most situations. It takes a lot to rile me up. But when I got there, I did get a feeling of like what's in the water here? Like, if I would have been here a little bit before, would I have fallen in love with someone too? Like, there's some pheromones or something going on. So a little bit of, FOMO there. I was like, I'm fear of missing out. I don't know what's going on. But I mean, I'm very happy to be at arm's distance, but I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest challenge is just trying to limit how much that gets into the job and trying to give the right advice. And even in the latest episode, I was reminding Jess, hey, that you're in a leadership position. You can't really mix with the same person. So I'm trying, it's like corralling your kids into the corner and trying to make them understand.
So if somebody said all that stuff's off limits, you'd have trouble getting people?
Do you mean
dating people or sleeping with people? Your
other crew? I've seen yachts try to have policies regarding like, don't screw the crew or no couples. But look, at the end of the day, especially when we're in close quarters for so long, things happen. And I think there's times when it crosses to be a fireable offense. But for the most part, you got to let people be people, because I've seen yachts where there's curfews. I've seen yachts where you can't do this or you can't do that. And it gets to the point that I don't want to feel like an indentured servant either. I just want everyone to be an adult and realize, hey, if you're going to screw around, this is what happens. Maybe take a 6-month period in between. But it is what it is.
Guys, if you're watching, I want you to ask your questions that you've always wanted to ask about Below Deck. So now is the time. Someone says Baltimore. I'm not sure what that means, but was this person in Baltimore that you were talking about?
It wasn't in Baltimore, but like I said, I'm not going to give any more clues.
He's getting close, isn't he? All right. Well, let's see. Anybody else got any questions? I'm going to try to think of one. Let's see. There's a private chat. Let's see if. No need for me to come on. I'm listening. Okay. That's Peyton right there. We're trying not to break any rules here. We're not going to talk about. Marion wants to know, can you get any privacy? That must be hard to get used to.
Yeah, I think in working on boats or on yachts, you're short on space. So that usually translates into being short on privacy. I can tell you that when you work on really big yachts, you can finally get some privacy, and the heads of department will have their own cabins, and it feels less like you're on top of each other. But I think that's just part of the game. You do have less privacy. Even if you are trying to go do a solo mission and everyone's like, oh, where are you going? Can I come? Can I do this? Do you want to go to drinks? Do you want to do that? So it is a social environment, and probably if you're completely a hermit, it's not the thing for you. But there's ways to get some privacy, or you're going to be in that cabin, I'll be in this one. Oh, I have the cabin to myself today. And the one thing that we always do too is, sometimes you just got to get away from the boat. We just go to a hotel or something and just plug into land for a bit. I think it's good for the psyche, and then holiday as well.
Okay, so on the other yachts you've worked on, have you worked on where you're like there's like 2 or 3 people?
I have. So my first captain position was on a 90-foot, or I think that's 27-meter sport yacht. So that one was just 3 crew, me, myself, my partner, and a deckhand. So me and her, we had one cabin together, and then he had his own, and we kind of structured it so it was on the opposite ends of the boat, so you could feel like you had a wing to yourself. We were in the guest cabin. But sometimes on those kind of boats, if you're really busy and you're always chartering, then that's going to be full with guests. So then you will feel like you have even less privacy. So
you were the captain. Your girlfriend was the
stew.
The stew, and then you had a deckhand.
I had one deckhand. Yeah.
Do you like that better when it's just the 3 of you?
No, to be honest, I've always been my first bosun, she called me a big boat wanker. I like big boats and I like having a lot of people. But I think this size that I'm on right now, I've got 5 crew, and that's probably the smallest for comfort. If you've got a good crew, 5 is nice. I would rather 7, and I like, big too. I like 15 people. I like 30 people. It just depends what I'm in the mood for.
Below Deck in one word: entertainment or education?
Ooh, edutainment, right? It's a little bit of both. Sometimes it's entertainment, sometimes it's educating, sometimes it's based on the truth, sometimes it makes its own truth. It's this cool in between.
Well, what was it like the first time you came on? You've worked on all these boats. You come on and there's cameras everywhere. What's that?
It's interesting. It's a little bit scary at first, and then you'd be surprised how quickly you kind of forget that they're there. You never truly forget, but I think the benefit for me is I'm doing a job at the end of the day, so I have something to get my mind off of the situation. Once the boat starts moving, once the lines need to get pulled, I'm kind of in that mode and in that mindset again, and it's easy for me to disconnect from whatever's going around and just really get in that one task. Whereas maybe I wouldn't have been as calm and collected if I was on Love Island and, the cameras watching me just do my business.
Yeah, I haven't caught that one yet.
Yeah,
I've just seen some
probably
videos.
For the best.
It's probably for the best. Okay. So I did notice that when you came on, you were just kind of observing. You didn't jump into the chaos. They tried to draw you in.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Ooh, also, I was just going to follow up that I had that commitment that's going to run into pretty soon. So I didn't know if you wanted to wrap up soon. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I have any more important questions. I guess that's it. All right, so people can find you. Let's put the email up. So, and you mentioned earlier that you are working on a captain's school, or you want to talk about that? That's in the works.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm working on turning a lot of the certifications necessary to become a captain and reach certain levels. I'm working on putting those into like study guides and materials. So I don't have any plans to certify people to become a captain, but I'll definitely have materials coming to help you pass those exams and also just study and prep for what you need to know before you do it.
Okay. And Marion, one final question. Do you feel like the cast is authentic, or do you feel they are different on camera?
To be honest, I really love, and this isn't just me saying it, like I loved everyone that I worked with. Like I think I had a really cool cast. I think I had a lot of experienced people on boats compared to certain things I've seen. And everyone was fun, like people have the different opinions of what's going on the show, but everyone's fun, pretty good hearted. And I think we all just enjoyed hanging out, which was really nice. And I've seen a lot of them in real life since, and I would see them again. I'm really fortunate for the people that I met.
Well, the biggest difference, what comes to mind between when you're on a regular boat and the below deck boat, what would be the biggest difference?
I'll say, and you wouldn't expect it, but I've had much crazier situations and weirder shit happen in real life. So the cameras, it's always, sometimes real life is stranger than fiction, I'd say. But I think just the technical answer I'd say is that the charters are shorter and it's more fast paced, flipping from that to that, rather than sometimes having a 7 or a 14 or 28 day. It's kind of like running the 40-meter dash versus a marathon.
Okay. All right. Well, let's end on that. Thank you so much, Hugo. I really appreciate you reaching out, and I enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much. And I like to end it this way. Salty Bannon